18th San Bernardino City Planning Commission meeting to begin. Can we please start with the call to order? Can we please have you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We'll proceed with the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Guerrero.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Quill.
Here.
Commissioner Liang.
Here.
Chair Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Wilbert.
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez has informed us she'll be a few minutes late, and Commissioner Ruiz is absent. We have quorum.
Thank you. We will proceed. Moving forward, the administration of oath. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on any agenda items listed tonight? If so, we will have you sworn in with the oath right now at this time. I see no one wishing to speak. We're going to go ahead and move into public comments or items that are not on the agenda. Does this we'll open the consent calendar as well. The consent items are considered routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All public and non-public hearing items will be opened at one time. Any item may be discussed separately upon request of a member of the Planning Commission or a member of the public. Does the staff have
Mr. Chair, I think it'd still be just a good idea just to open the public comment for items not listed on the agenda just real quick, just to have it on the record.
Absolutely. Let the record reflect that we are opening public comments as well.
And if you have none, you can close it and then move on to consent.
I see no public comments, so we'll go ahead and close public comments. Moving forward to the consent agenda.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. On the consent calendar this evening, we have two items. First is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of April the 9th, 2019. Those are recommended for adoption as presented. I do have one minor modification, if I may, on the cover page of the minutes. Under the Commissioners, we'd like to correctly spell Commissioner Guerrero's last name. We need to add a U before the E after the G, and so we will make that correction. We apologize for that. Item number 2 is for the real property street vacation 15.30.426. Is for the vacation of a remainder of a portion that's on Cajon Boulevard as depicted, on Institution Road as depicted on the plan. If you wanted to refer to that particular item as your attachment to the report, there's a small triangular piece that had remained intact after the street had been vacated as a result of a development proposal. As they were cleaning up the title for the property, it was discovered that there was this fragmented piece that was not removed. So it's just a formality of removing that item, and from here we'll go to the City Council for that formal vacation. And so that concludes our recommendations for the consent calendar. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Does the Commission have any questions for staff in regards to the consent agenda? If not, Commissioner Lang.
I'd like to note that I wasn't here at the for the minute for April 9th, so I'm going to abstain from that.
No problem. Duly noted.
Thank you.
Other than that, do we have any other further questions for staff in regards to the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the draft minutes.
And item number 2, please.
And item number 2 as well.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. Agenda item number 3. Let's go ahead and open agenda item number 3 at this time, Developmental Code 19-01. Can we have the staff report for that, please?
Yes, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Before Elizabeth provides you with the presentation on this item, just wanted to give a little bit of background. As you may be aware, over the course of the past year or so, the City Council has adopted many policies and procedures and what have you as it related to cannabis activities. It has been addressed and included within Chapter 5 of the Municipal Code, which is for the commercial business activities. So now as we're getting into that implementation phase, we're going in and making sure that the municipal code is consistent throughout. We found some areas in our development code that needed to be modified, particularly definitions, the permitted land use table, and such as those items that are included in the report and be part of the presentation. But simply wanted to, we're not asking for direction or for an action that implements anything new. It's simply to ensure that as the City Council proceeds with processing cannabis-related applications, that when they ultimately come back to the Planning Commission or Department, as it may, we have that consistency there and we can refer to that. So with that, I'd like to ask Elizabeth if she can please provide us with a presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So item number 3 is Development Code Amendment 19-01. Development Code Amendment 19-01, the proposal is to do an amendment to Chapter 19.02, Basic Provisions, Chapter 19.06, Commercial Zones, Chapter 19.10, Industrial Zones, and Chapter 19.70, Temporary Use Permits of the City of San Bernardino Development Code, which is in Title 19, in order to establish a consistency with Chapter 5.10, Commercial Cannabis Activities of the City of San Bernardino Municipal Code. As part of the Development Code Amendment, certain sections of Title 19 will be modified to add additional information. That would be in Chapter 19.02, Development Code Section 19.02.05 will be modified to add a commercial cannabis activity definition. In your packet, there was an exhibit, and so that section will be modified as shown in Exhibit A of the packet. The commercial cannabis activity definition would read as follows, and that would be to any activity engaging in the cultivation, possession, manufacture, distribution, processing, storing, laboratory testing, packaging, labeling, transportation, delivery, or sale of cannabis and cannabis products as provided for in Chapter 5.10 of the Municipal Code. Addition, the amendment would also include the modification of Chapter 19.06, Section 19.06.020, and that would be the Land Use Table 06.01. That would add commercial cannabis activities as a line item in the zoning districts table as a development permitted use. Additionally, Development Code Section 19.06.030, Specific Standards, Table 06.03, and Section 19.06.030.2 will be modified to add commercial cannabis activities, identifying whether additional specific standards or special standards are required, and they will reference Section 5.10 of the Municipal Code. And we have the exhibits attached as part of your staff report and as to how that will be incorporated. Additionally, in Chapter 19.10, Industrial Zones, the Development Code Section 19.08.020, Land Use Table 08.01, will be modified to add commercial cannabis activities within the zoning districts as a line item, as a development permitted item. Chapter 19.70, which is our temporary use permits, Section 19.70.025, cannabis special events, will be added as a line item as a permitted item within the city. In addition to that, there will be a section that will be added, 19.070.036, Cannabis Special Event Development and Operations Standards section, which incorporates certain guidelines that were authorized by the mayor and city council to be added for any special events here within the city of San Bernardino. So our recommendation today is to adopt resolution number 2019-027, to adopt resolution 2019-027, forwarding a recommendation to the mayor and city council of the approval of Development Code Amendment 19-01, and finding that the amendment is exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act. If you have any questions regarding any additional clarification regarding how everything will be incorporated, I'm here to answer those questions.
Thank you, Elizabeth. If I may, Commissioners, for one moment, I'm asking Stephanie if she could pull up a couple of items on the screen for us. Recognizing that you don't have the hard copy in front of you of the report, I wanted to quickly go through the exhibits which touch upon each of the revisions to the different sections of the code, just for clarity. So, so hopefully that makes a little better sense on what the exact changes will look like as part of this.
Mr. Chair, while we're getting that set up, just a reminder that pursuant to Section 2.22.030 of the Municipal Code, we need 5 votes, not a simple majority of 4, but actually 5 votes to pass this item. And then I also recommend, even though no one's here, just to open and close just for the record. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. While we're waiting,
Mr. Chair, if I may follow up on that clarity on that statement, when you say pass, the item, is it a recommendation item to the?
It's a recommendation.
Okay.
The exact language is that a recommendation for approval of a general plan amendment or an amendment to the municipal code shall be by the affirmative vote of not less than a majority, and then parentheses 5, of the total membership of the commission. The development code is one part of the municipal code, so any amendment to the development code is an amendment to the municipal code.
So as we have the exhibits that are up that are part of the proposed modification of the development code, as Elizabeth indicated, in our development code, we have a list of all the definitions that are within the code. So what we're doing in this is we're inserting this specific definition into our development code. So I just wanted to kind of go item by item by exhibit to show you what's going to be modified in the code. And the next exhibit, which is B, this is the table that's within the commercial development zones. And we're inserting line item L, which is the other category, and cannabis activities. And as you see, what goes across the commercial zones, the D delineates that it's a development permit that would be required for those projects. So that, and then when there's a strikeout or nothing silent, it's prohibited in that particular area. On Exhibit C, it covers the commercial and industrial zones as it relates to the specific standards for commercial cannabis activities. So this will be, there's an existing table, and there'll just be a row. This row here would be inserted into the existing table. And then D, Exhibit D, will show you, again, this is a, in the industrial zone, again, telling you which zones it's allowed in, which would be in all with the exception of the IE zone. So that table would be amended accordingly. Exhibit E, this is our special events permit section of our development code. We will be adding item, and so these are all existing. If we scroll down a little bit more, you'll see we've added item number 10. So the first 9 currently exist in our code. we are adding number 10 to insert cannabis special events within our special events permit section of the code to maintain that consistency. Our next Exhibit F talks about the operational standards for special events. So when you want to have a special event, like as I mentioned, or as it was included in your report, the council did approve procedures for special events, specifically for the Orange Show area, and this is kind of a listing. All of these will be inserted into our development code for that particular matter. Commissioner Liang?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Got a question. Mr. Mojigas, if you could go back to the previous slide. Go back there. Yeah, stay right here for a moment. 1970-025, item 1, group assemblies with more than 100 attendees. Does that mean that if you have less than 100, you don't require an individual, or individuals wouldn't require a special event permit from the city?
This is not, the first 9 do not relate to cannabis. So those are, so if it's special events, as it indicates, so if it's more than 100, then you do need, but more than 100.
So it says more than 100, but if it's less than 100, you could still have it, but you don't need a special event? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So you wouldn't necessarily have a special event, like if you have a 99 people?
If it's, if I may?
Go ahead.
Yes, so if it's still a commercial cannabis activity, if it's still a event for cannabis, even if it is less than 100, they would still be required to have a special event permit because it's going to be held at the National Orange Show.
Okay, so the first, like, as I mentioned, the first 9 currently exist. It's non-cannabis related, the first 9. So if you were to open up our development code and turn to page X, that's what our development code would show, the first 9. And so we've added item number 10 as an item that requires a special event permit. Then as we go to the next exhibit, it talks about what is required, what are the submittal requirements for cannabis events only.
Okay, so, all right, let me clarify what you just said. So you're saying that the first 9 was already there?
That's correct.
Okay, so now you're adding 10, you're grouping it in. Wouldn't all the 10 now be applicable to that 1970 council?
No, because each of the ones listed, they have their own definitions, they have their own regulations. So when you put in a cannabis special event phrase, it means anything cannabis related is going to fall under that specific provision and the regulations that you see in the next exhibit, Exhibit F.
If I'm a person coming from outside Los Angeles, outside of this county, and I read that permitted uses special event permits, 1 through 10, I'm grouping that. It just seems to me that that's what it's saying, that if you want a cannabis special event, you don't really necessarily need one if you have less than 100 attendees. That's all. It seems sort of conflicting because you're saying 1 through 9, it's not applicable, but you're tucking 10 under all that umbrella, 1970-025.
If they all were related together, one would be a subsection of a different number. It would be 1A, 1B, but it's a different number. Best analogy I can give you is, let's say number 1 was the equivalent of if you were an ice cream truck, A, B, and C apply to you. And 10 is if you sell ice cream infused with cannabis, that's the number 10. That's the equivalent. In other words, to a reasonable person looking at this, I think they would understand if you're going to do anything cannabis related, you're falling under number 10, even if you have more than 100 people coming.
I think part of the confusion is the way it's set up, because I would agree, when I first read it, 1 through 10, I thought all of those applied to number 10 until we get to Exhibit F. Is there any problem in putting the cannabis activity as something separate, or indicating those cannabis activities, then Exhibit F applies to them? Because I don't think that says that there. But as I was reading it, I also thought the same thing. Number 10 means that 1 through 9 applied to number 10. until we get to Exhibit F. And if it wasn't for Oliver telling us F applies to cannabis only, I wouldn't have known that.
So,
We're just thinking about someone coming in, and as you know, we already have problems and concerns about all of the cannabis thing. We don't need any more. And I
That's
don't know
right.
if it's clear.
Thank you,
Can we make
Commissioner,
it clear?
for chiming in on that, because if I ask somebody off the street, a regular business person, a business-minded person, or even a person that, a home-rich background, and they read that 1 through 10, look, that applies to it. So therefore, if it's not 100 or and less, I have 99 people. I don't need a special event because that says exactly what it says. It's and especially on this particular item, it's cannabis. I mean, do we need this conundrum into this whole scenario, 1 through 9? And it just seems to me very subjective if you were going to say, well, yeah, staff can have the discretion to say, well, all of a sudden, 1 through 9 is not applicable. It's like, it doesn't say that. It says 1 through 10. It's under umbrella section 1970-025, permitted uses, special events permit. It's clearly, to me, one group assembly with more than 100 attendees. When you're making it greater than, then you're saying you need one. But if you're making it less than, then you're not subject to that. It's very subjective to me. So I think, and I appreciate my colleagues noted that, because, I think it's quite confusing.
So
That's all.
I can appreciate that comment. So maybe there's a couple suggestions. One, either create a new section. I'm just going to throw out a number just for the sake of throwing out a number. So let's say 19.70.030. Permitted special event permits for cannabis, and just leave it at that. Or after 10 in parentheses, right, as regulated by section 19.70-36, which is what's in Exhibit F. So we could either further clarify in this section, or we can just create a whole new section defining special event permits for cannabis activities as its own, and it'll just be
If you
just
do
one.
if you do the parentheses, I would suggest that items 1 through 9 do not apply to cannabis activity. For those, see Exhibit F, or, if you're going to do the parentheses.
Okay.
Then it's very clear that 1 through 9 don't apply to me. I got to do this.
Okay. Does that?
Yeah, I think it needs to be explained, because average person, a reasonable person, as you said, using your words, would probably lump all that together to me, because when I read that, I see that, hey, if I have 99 people, these applicable rules, they don't apply to me. And you're saying, well, I'm staff, I'm making the call, wait, number 10, it's cannabis, therefore you need a special event. It does not explain that. I mean, it just adds more confusions to the processes.
I would, if I may, Oliver, I would recommend just adding some language to item 1 that says, comma, with the exception of cannabis events of any size. See number 10. Then it should be crystal clear.
Yes, and I would add to that, comma, items 1 through 9 are not applicable to, cannabis special events to that effect. Just so that we can have that clarity. We don't need somebody over the counter to read what we're trying to do here, and we need to be very clear about it in terms of the objective, and it's not achieving that objective. It's adding more confusions to it, that's all.
So would the best course of action be to just modify the language in the additional number 10 of 19.770.025, reflecting its exclusivity from 1 through 9, basically saying that the other special event permit uses can't be commingled with 10 or And then another question, because I had was, you said there was an option we can reference the Exhibit F 19.70.036, but with the Cannabis Special Events Operation Standards, is this specifically speaking in reference to the National Orange Show? Because I see that there's like a required traffic management plan, a waste management plan. So are these requirements going to be required for every single cannabis special event within the city of San Bernardino, or is it just specifically at that venue?
If I may, I can answer that question. Okay, so the mayor and city council, they approved a resolution to allow us to establish guidelines. So these guidelines are specific for commercial cannabis events. As part of the adoption of that resolution at mayor and city council, they determined that the events are only to be held at the National Orange Show. So these specific standards are additional standards for commercial cannabis events that will be held at the National Orange Show.
So this provision is being specifically written to be tailored for events at the National Orange Show?
To be tailored for cannabis events at the National Orange Show.
Exclusively?
Exclusively.
Okay. Thank you. Does the commission have any further questions for staff in regards to any modifications or anything in regards to the permitted uses for special events permits?
Yes, I do. Through the chair, I have first of all, the whole cannabis issue has been, we've been working with it in the city for about 3 years or somewhere thereabouts. And I've served on a couple committees trying to help put together ordinances for the cultivation and the distribution and so on. In that, giving that, in putting together this ordinance, this seems like we're doing something after the fact instead of before the fact, because we did talk about zoning, we talked about areas where these places could exist, businesses could exist. This new proposed zoning, is it going to affect any of the people that are potentially going to get licenses now, that have actually purchased property and are in the process of in line and to get these licenses?
No, it will not.
No?
And this is, again, as you mentioned, it was, maybe one of those, had we have been be able to do it all over again,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And so again, it's just as we go through it, as we've gone through the process, and we recognize things. If you may recall, there was a conversation at one of the prior council meetings when they're talking about consistency with the general plan and land use and all that kind of thing. And so that really we were able to turn to, and it's like, well, okay, let's button this up so that we make sure that both titles of our municipal code are in line. And so this does not conflict or change anything that's already been adopted and already implemented through the cannabis ordinance. This is simply house cleaning, if you will, to include these items. You're welcome.
Does the commission have any further questions for staff? At this time, we'll open public comments. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this item. I see no one. We're going to go ahead and close public comments.
Mr. Chair, for purposes of now the vote, I just want to read into the record what the proposed additional changes are to the language.
Excellent.
So the revised language for Section 19.70.025, permitted uses special event permits, paragraph 1, group assemblies with more than 100 attendees and or for a duration longer than 3 days, in parentheses, excluding setup and breakdown, end parentheses, comma, with the exception of cannabis events of any size, period. And in Section 10, cannabis special events, in parentheses, items 1 through 9 not applicable, end parentheses.
I think that's pretty comprehensive, Commissioner Lang. Okay.
Maybe yes, maybe put the word shall in front of the not. Shall not be applicable if I may suggest. Thank
Yes,
you.
so reading again, section 19.70.025, permitted uses special event permits, paragraph 10, cannabis special events, in parentheses, items 1 through 9 shall not be applicable, end parentheses.
Thank you.
Excellent. Does the commission have any further questions for staff in regards to the modification? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the Development Code Amendment 19.01. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution Number 2019-027, forwarding a recommendation to the Mayor and City Council. The approval of Development Code Amendment 1901, based on the findings of fact and finding that the project is categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act. Shouldn't that be "and findings"? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item number 4. Extension of time 19-03 and amendment to conditions 19-03. Can we please have the staff report?
Yes, Honorable Chair and Commissioners, with this item, as indicated in our staff report, we are requesting that this matter be continued to the next meeting of June the 11th. The applicant is working with the Public Works Department. As you recall from some of our other applications with the amendment to conditions, we are making the transition from landscape maintenance districts to community facilities district. This particular project involves the Rancho Palma specific plan, which is a rather large area and number of homes and development within there. The applicant is working with Public Works to work out what's going to be included within that new CFD of the project. So they wanted to have some time to further clarify that. So with that, a recommendation, if you would be so kind, would be to open the public hearing and then continue the public hearing to the meeting of June 11th so that we can take action on that particular item.
At this time, I would like to open public comments for agenda item number 5, and I also would like to make a motion to continue public comments and agenda item number 4 to the June 11th regular Planning Commission meeting.
Mr. Chair, did you close public comment?
Oh, no, Oliver didn't say close it. Close it? Okay. My apologies. At this time, we are going to close public comments for agenda item number 4. And we will also continue agenda item number 4 to the June 11th regular Planning Commission meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, Planning Commission reports and announcements. Do we have any announcements or reports from the Commission? Commissioner Sanchez.
The third ward actually just had an election by mail, and I want to give a congratulations to Juan Figueroa, who now is the councilman for the third ward. And I'd like to also thank the people who voted, went out and, put in their ballots and mailed it in. So I want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, Councilman-elect Figueroa. It was a very interesting race, yes. So looking forward to working with him as well. Do we have any other announcements or reports from the Commissioner?
I have an announcement. Beginning tomorrow, May 15, 16, and 17, 11 members of our Neighborhood Association Council will be attending the annual Neighborhood USA Conference, which is being held in Palm Springs this year. So we are fortunate that it's in our backyard. We will be having an exhibit booth, and all of the presidents that are going, with the exception of 3 of us, because 3 of us did attend the one held in Nebraska, which was the first time we ever sent any members, and they came back all inspired. And so this time around, we're sending additional members, so there'll be 11 of us. We're going to come back with a lot of ideas.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any other further announcements from the commission? All right, moving forward, do we have a director's report for this meeting?
Yes, Chairman and Commissioners, at this time, I'd like to introduce Don Smith. He is the new legislative field representative for the mayor's office. I'd like to welcome him and introduce him.
Yes, hi, my name is Don Smith, and I'm the field rep for Mayor Valdivia. I just wanted to come introduce myself and make sure that you know I'm always available to each and every one of you. If you want to meet me in the mayor's office, I'm always available to schedule a meeting because all of us really have the same goal. And in the state of the city, the mayor made it very clear that he wants to get San Bernardino back on track and really build development. And you guys are the experts in that. So I want to work with all of you. I've worked with the staff before. All of you guys have really helped me out with answering emails. And so let's get San Bernardino moving. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. All right, I believe it is time for adjournment. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting until June 11th. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting until our next meeting, which is scheduled for June 11, 2019.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Everyone have a nice evening. Thank you.